thinking, okay, the red are the loyalists to the Emperor, to the Sith, and you have the ability, like you said, just from a visual perspective. Oh, okay, now the white guy, the white stormtroopers are good, the red ones are loyal to him.
Well, welcome to another episode of Voices from a Galaxy Far, Far Away. I'm David Jesse. This is Tatooine Sons. Thank you so much for watching or for listening, whichever choice you make. For that, I'm excited to have a really fun conversation about the Rise of Skywalker with Todd Hoffman from WSTR Galactic Public Access. It's the NPR of Star Wars. So I asked Todd about the missed opportunity of a stormtrooper rebellion in the Rise of Skywalker. Here's what he had to say. Todd, you're a 501st guy. You're a stormtrooper. So
I am a stormtrooper. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but before the Rise of Skywalker came out, I was getting some serious stormtrooper rebellion, like revolution, insurrection vibes from The Last Jedi and some of the things that I thought were going to be coming out in this. And I kind of feel like there was a missed opportunity in the Rise of Skywalker. And I liked the Rise of Skywalker. It wasn't, of all the three sequel trilogy movies, it wasn't my top. The Last Jedi was for me. But for you, was this a missed opportunity with Finn potentially doing something special with some stormtroopers?
I feel it was. Like in The Force Awakens, right? We know there's an awakening in Rey. We know there's an awakening in Kylo. And there's an awakening in Finn making the right choice, And why it's a missed opportunity in The Rise of Skywalker is I feel like when they invaded the Star Destroyer, you could have had an opportunity when they're trying to rescue Chewie, right? You could have had an opportunity where people recognized him. And because how, like, in Phasma is like, in The Force Awakens, it's kind of like Law and Order, like straight, like why you're taking off your helmet, you shouldn't be doing this, and so when somebody escapes from the system and is now making a name for himself, I mean, that rumor mill is going on, just as we saw in Last Jedi when the kids are already talking about what happened with Luke Skywalker at the end of Last Jedi, right? And so I think you would have some discussions in the ranks as far as like, hey, what about that guy that defected, And I think that makes it would have been more powerful, not only when you see the ships all come in and, they're just people, which is great. I wish they showed more of them in action, but that's I mean, you can have 10,000 ships, great, but we didn't see any cockpit views. We didn't see any like big of the ships do anything. It was more flash in a pan, for that one, and so that's another side story. But I just felt like it would have been an opportunity because he's trying to tell Rey there's something different about him, and they're having this from beginning to end. He's like, I got to tell you something, right? Mm-hmm. And you have an opportunity when he enters the Star Destroyer, like he could have tried to change their hearts or change their minds, like come join us and have like a revolution, almost a rebellion on the ship. And that would have been a lot more powerful than just him going around really basically killing his brothers in a sense. Wow. And and we kind of saw this too, like in the latest Clone Wars too, with Rex and Ahsoka, right? So Ahsoka unmasked him and he's crying, right? And I feel like Finn is unmasked, and he could have shown more compassion because he knows that they were programmed or brainwashed in a sense. And I just felt like it was a run and gun mission, and he's popping these stormtroopers, and it's like, it's a miss. It's a missed opportunity because how can somebody that is getting like, I'm doing something good, I'm doing something for the better of not only myself, but then others in the galaxy, not try to change the people he came from? And
it's interesting too, because Jana, has that same sort of that stormtrooper background, and everybody with her on the moon of Endor there, and they're all dealing with this desire, this innate or internal struggle with a knowledge that the First Order, that the Empire is evil, and it's calling them to do evil things, and so they almost come right up to the point of saying that's what's going to happen. That there's this mass, critical mass that's taking place within the stormtrooper ranks, and Finn can lead them to rebellion. I, for one, fully anticipated that was what the red stormtroopers were for, so that you have red Sith troopers versus white stormtroopers, and it makes it very easy to identify who the good guys are and the bad guys are, and Finn's leading this rebellion. Do you feel like that they were wanting to go there and decided not to, or what was what were your thoughts on that? Because it did seem like it shifted dramatically between The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker.
Right. And I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking, okay, the red are the loyalists to the Emperor, to the Sith, and you have the ability, like you said, just from a visual perspective. Oh, okay, now the white guy, the white stormtroopers are good. The red ones are loyal to the Emperor. It kind of makes sense visually. And I was really thinking too, like, especially when things got dicey and Falcon has to come in and save him, that he would have used the Force, like pushed Jana onto the ship, or did something that was innate, like he didn't know. Very similar to how Rey just automatically like blocks Kylo with her mind. Like that it just woke. It's like, no, you're not getting through with me. You're not doing that. I felt like there was an opportunity there to either use the Force or do something extraordinary, like save Jana, or she sees it, or some other people see it. Again, even in the like inside the Star Destroyer, there's an opportunity to like put down your weapons and try to, civilly talk to people. I don't know.
In the Last Jedi, in the deleted scenes too, there's this moment when they're on Snoke's destroyer.
Yes,
that there seems to be all of that, the recognition of who Finn is. He's this guy that, well, at least they know who he is from his history.
Right, the Tom Hardy cut.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. That is Tom Hardy. That's awesome. Yeah. It would have been interesting to see that kind of taking place. What do you think about the missed opportunity when it comes to a message too? That the stormtroopers, they're stolen as children. Yes. They're brainwashed from the very beginning to accept this system. And, you have Finn and you have Jana and you have others that seem to be rebelling against that programming and against that system. What about that missed opportunity to just basically say, you can break free from sort of the world that's been pulled over your eyes in that? Yeah,
I think that they try to do with Rey with planting like, oh, she's a Palpatine, right? And you have to, your namesake is not your identity. You can change that. I do think it's a missed opportunity with saying you don't have to conform to the system, and we see that in Finn. And then you have all this promotional stuff from Force Awakens when he's holding a lightsaber, and he stands his own against Kylo. Like he's like, I'm going to do this. I'm defending my friend, my new friend for 24 hours, but she's my friend now, and and there's an opportunity, especially that he's growing. He grew more, Rose opens his eyes a little bit and says, oh, the world, and DJ too is like, bad guy, good guy. It's like, it's all the same because it's driven by money. And so it's pretty real world and it's pretty on point, and you have to make choices, right? And he has a choice to change other people, and I think that's where the missed opportunity is, like saying you don't have to obey the system or obey these commands because somebody's telling you to do it. You have choice. And I think that's another interesting thing about Star Wars that doesn't get talked about much is like with the clones, the Emperor basically takes the choice away from them.
Yeah.
Even though they're technically human, he basically forces them to not make the right choice, with an inhibitor chip and all that stuff. So
Finn in general in the sequel trilogy, those 3 movies, what were your thoughts on his storyline, his arc overall, and coming from Stormtrooper all the way through to, I guess, Force sensitive at the end of the story. Right. What are your thoughts on Finn?
I feel like the Force part is shoot in. If they did something, especially like even at The Last Jedi, where he's willing to sacrifice himself for the greater good, right? He's like, I'm going through this battering ram Death Star thingy blaster, and I'm going to do it, right? And Rose kind of, robs him of that opportunity because he was ready to, sacrifice himself. And I just feel like it's a miss where they could have something could happen in an extreme sense, when he's fighting Phasma or whatever, and use the Force. Then you set it up for the third act, right? And so that's where, if you're talking big picture, it wasn't really end to end. Because you have something where he's holding a lightsaber. He's the second non-Force user to hold a lightsaber, right? Han's the first, and now he's the second. So you're setting up like, hey, maybe that's something or it's similar to, we were just talking about this in Empire, right? Everybody talks about the big reveal of Darth Vader and, I'm father, blah, 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 right. But they don't talk very much about a lot of people, the second reveal, which is Leia. And Luke calls out to her and she's woke. She's like, she has an awakening and she's like, Luke, right. I hear him. And it would have been really cool if you're going to set up this Force sensitive Finn in the third act, you have something in the second act that just a little inkling, like as a kid, I missed Leia, right? But like as an adult, I'm like, oh, dude, she's, Yoda says there's another and that's the one. They're a twin, like you kind of know that, but it would be, it would have been really cool to show something like Finn having a moment where you as an audience member, like, kind of question it. It's like, maybe. And then that plays out better in the third act,
I saw a lot of videos and because we did an episode about a year ago now on Finn
evolution, right? Yeah.
About him potentially being Force sensitive. And then, and then it was fun because John Boyega actually tweeted on a thread about it and sort of hinted that with a GIF that it may be coming. And so we were wondering, because we argued that it didn't make sense. And then when he did that, to replying to somebody else's comment that said that he was Force sensitive, and here's the reasons why, it was like, oh, maybe we should go back and reevaluate some stuff. So we found all these videos where they were finding reasons in The Force Awakens for him to have been it, but they weren't nearly as pronounced as what you're describing with Leia in Empire Strikes Back. Yes. Do you feel like that's one of the weaknesses of this trilogy of movies, the sequel trilogy, was the lack of a clearly mapped out coherent story from start to finish through all 3 movies, character arcs, all of those types of things, because you had JJ, then you had Ryan, then you had Colin, then you went back to JJ, and you've got Bad Robot producing 1 and 3 versus some other things. Do you think that was one of the potentially a flaw that was within the planning for that?
I mean, if we're going to be really honest, George Lucas was making it up on the fly too.
Absolutely.
Right? So he has like, he costs about, like this little outline, but he didn't know if A New Hope was going to take off. So he brought in the Death Star explosion. We're going to blow up the Death Star now, get it out of the way. And so like in Return of the Jedi, like, well, that was my end goal.
So we're going to do it again.
We're going to do 2, right? And it's going to be bigger. And so then when you get to Force Awakens, you're like, oh, new Star Wars. And it's like, Han even calls it out. It's like, oh, so what? It's bigger. So now you have a planet that's a Death Star. And you're like, oh, okay, well, here we go. To me, I out of the 3, the Rise of Skywalker is my lead. It's just you're telling me the third film you're just goober chasing? I mean, that's what you're doing. You got 3 goobers and you're just chasing, and that's the whole film, And the fact that we know that they didn't go weird. They filmed the spider baby thing, and we didn't get to see that.
Didn't let us see it.
Didn't get us to see that. There's no deleted scenes. It's, Kevin Smith says the last scene's going to make you cry, and I didn't cry. I didn't find it emotional. I mean,
well, let's be honest. Kevin Smith knows how to hype stuff. So,
well, I believed him when he walked.
I did
Falcon.
too.
I was crying with him. I was like, oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, I think it's just a miss. Like I said, if you're going to do Finn as a Force sensitive or allude to it, you need to see that through. I mean, I feel like obviously, cliche. I feel like Kylo really is the strongest out of. That was the real established arc. I feel like the Palpatine thing for Rey, it seems forced to me. No pun intended. It doesn't seem. I mean, there could be hints, but like you don't push the temptations that there's a couple parts in The Force Awakens, like when she's fighting Kylo, she's pretty angry, but you don't really get to see that. I wish they hid Chewie more from the audience, because you really felt like the way that is acted and portrayed is like she killed him. And almost immediately they show Chewie, and the audience is like, oh, okay. It would have been a lot more powerful if you didn't know, even as the audience, like Chewie was
you
alive.
found out with Rey.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Instead of like a minute later, like, oh, Chewie's alive. I mean, you're like, oh, okay. It's a false. You like that scene, especially seeing like opening night. You're just like. Sure. Oh, they're going there, and then like a minute later, after you're like, just like, oh, that was the worst. They show Chewie, and you're like, oh,
okay, he's alive.
Okay, he's alive.
I saved him.
I saved him. So yeah, I think it is a missed opportunity where they could have fully flushed out those things. And again, you could have something where even in the second act with Last Jedi, speaking back to the Finn insurrection kind of rebellion, you could have just a little bit end shot, something about, hey, did you hear about FN 218? Just like have something where stormtroopers are talking about it, because we never really see that either, right? We've never seen an unmasked stormtrooper besides Finn, right? So you have, and Han Solo and Luke, but they were just in disguise. They don't count. But it'd be interesting, similar to what some of the serious conversations that happen in Clone Wars, the series, you have this opportunity where you can say you have like 2 stormtroopers or a squad of stormtroopers, and you'd be like, hey, what do you guys think about this? Or something like that. So
where's the future of Star Wars going with this? How do you feel about it right now?
Well, we're in a good spot. I think obviously TV is where it's at. I mean, without Baby Yoda, Star Wars would not be where it's at. So I'm really excited about, both the reveal of, the child and the Darksaber were like shut the front door kind of moments for me. Just like, wow, they really went there, and they went there with Solo and Maul. It's like, oh, we're showing this on live action. Okay, all right, I had to explain to my friends, like, Darth Maul survived because he was really, really angry. And then he turned to a spider, but then he got legs from the Mandalorians, and then...
And their faces sort of kind of go with this weird expression, and their eyes glaze over, and you're like, what the heck are you talking about?
we talked about this, too, just the other week. It's like, they had to play the Phantom Menace music, right? They had to, Dual Fates, Then they had to change the hologram, so it's not only blue, but it's red, so you can see it's like a red lightsaber. And they might as well just put arrows, like, this is Darth Maul. I feel like sometimes they don't feel like we're smart, And it really be interesting too, as to answer your question, I feel like TV is where everything's going, and now, it's like everybody's in season 2, right? You got Sabine,
oh my gosh,
Ahsoka,
a 50-passenger bus to get to the set,
Right. I was joking. It should be like the child and his friends. You know, it's like
it's like an episode of the Muppets or something. with he gets to play Kermit, and then there's all these other characters just charging in here across the screen.
I mean, it would be bold for them to set up things where, I kind of like a cantina scene where you have somebody that is a major character, but they don't highlight it. You know,
just in the background, you see him and you catch it.
Just a camera pass, like, you know, I go back to like Rogue One where, you know, they zoom in on the blue milk right when they leave, and it's just like.
But I think this has to do with the fact that you have directors and writers that aren't as invested in the animation and the novels and this other world. So they feel like, oh, the average fan's not going to get that blue milk thing unless we highlight it, or they're not going to get the mall thing.
That's like with the Rise of Skywalker. There another couple of missed opportunities was like Lando and Ninub, you know, or Ninub or whatever you want to call it, whatever it is. You set him up in Force Awakens. There's Ninub. Oh yeah, he flew with Lando on the Return of Jedi.
And they're both there, fly together.
Right. Couldn't say, hey, buddy, you know. And I love the scene between Poe and Lando when they're grieving over Leia. Right, it's perfect. Right. Yeah, but he doesn't even acknowledge Leia's death right there. You know, nor Han or Luke. It's just like, you know, and then if you're playing with Solo and you're like, okay, you know, you're playing off the line that the Millennium Falcon has a peculiar language and, it's L3, right? He's in the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon.
Absolutely.
You could have just said, hey, girl, nice to see you, or I missed you, babe, or something. You
absolutely.
know? And we know that he's talking to L3, you know, because we're nerds, right? But they just didn't, you know.
Oh, I thought for sure they were going to go there too, because I remember reading. I didn't finish the Rise of Skywalker, or excuse me, the Last Jedi novelization until after Solo came out.
Yeah,
and so I'm getting to the last few chapters of that, and they're talking about there's like a conversation. Jason Fry has a conversation between the different computers in the Millennium Falcon taking place.
Yes,
and I'm like, that one's L3. You know, and I'm like, wait, he put this in before Solo came out. So I tweeted to him. I'm like, Jason, was this L3? And did you know about all this when you wrote? And he's like, I've been waiting for somebody to ask me about that. And I'm like, so you guys knew and you put it in there. Use it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just like, so you bring back Wedge for 1 second, right? And the book, Snap Wexley, you know, is his like son-in-law, you know. And he dies. Snap dies. We see him go down, you know, and
no grieving.
Yeah. And you don't even. And then Wedge and Lando flew together too in the Death Star 2 run, and it's just like they're all celebrating. And if you watch very closely, Wedge is like 2 feet away from Lando when he's talking to Jannah, and it's just like have the, you know, you have those moments of grieving, you know, with like kind of Maz and Chewie in a sense, but you don't, I don't know. It's just another, you know, you want to, you know, war's serious, and you want to express like, not only did we get through that, but you have some casualties along the way. And I don't think they really.
It did feel kind of like a curtain call.
Yeah. Yeah.
That didn't even work because, I mean, they had all these other characters in the novelization that were right there. They're like having this conversation, and they could have highlighted every single one of those characters in a cockpit, and every one of us that are so geeked out about this kind of stuff would have been losing their minds in the theaters, and people around us that don't read the novels, don't watch the animation, would be like, what were you so excited about? Oh my God, that was Ezra. That was, you know, all these different characters.
That was Kaz in the Fireball.
The Kaz.
It's like, or, you know, they have the ghosts. We see the ghost.
Show us a Jason Syndulla. Make a live-action adult version of Jason Syndulla as the greatest deep dive in Star Wars history.
No,
with that.
You have to show Babu Frick and
hello, which I love Babu Frick, but
no, I do too.
But yeah. All right, you ready for the hyperspace round? We're going to do this.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go. Fast and Furious. All right, what's your first Star Wars memory?
Luke in the Wampa Cave reaching for the lightsaber.
Oh man, that's pretty good.
That was 5. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your favorite Star Wars movie?
Empire.
I know everybody wants to answer that. So.
I mean, it's cliche, but
I'm waiting for somebody to say. Actually, it was one of the episodes that we had earlier was Michael Condon from 2Med2 actually said Last Jedi. I was surprised. Favorite non-Star Wars movie?
Oh wow, there's quite a few. Dark Knight.
Nice. Oh, BB Nate's a huge Batman fan.
Yeah, I love me some Batman.
There you go. Favorite Star Wars character?
Cliche again, Boba Fett.
So you're pretty pumped right now about the potential of seeing him in Mandalorian?
I kind of want what they did in Aftermath and have somebody that's fake first, like somebody wearing the armor, but it's not
something like
that.
Yeah,
not really like a doppelganger in a sense. And the real Boba Fett shows up. I think that would be a really cool payoff.
So Samuel the Hutt dives into this conversation 2 episodes ago on our main show. You should check it out. All right.
I will check it out.
Cobb Vanth and Boba Fett battling each other, both in Boba Fett armor. He's got this whole theory in his head right now. Okay. Least favorite Star Wars character?
Oh, man. I don't know.
Some people are afraid to answer this. They want.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
You've got somebody. You just don't want to say it. Say
it. Rose.
Really?
Rose.
Not a fan?
Not a fan.
Okay. All right. That's fair.
Yeah.
I feel like you a bad person.
Yeah. I feel like she didn't get her due, like her due in Rise of Skywalker either. You could have not had Jana and, what's
she
her
could
face?
have been that character. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. She could have gone through, or Zori Bliss, like both of those characters. You didn't need them. You could have used Rose.
Yeah.
Rose, and you're fine.
Then you're going to want to check out our episode coming out next week. Okay. All right. It's all about Rose.
Always close. Tune in next week.
That's right. Which is better, Clone Wars or Rebels?
Ooh. That's a tough one because I feel like Kanan's death is just one of the best moments of self-sacrifice you'll ever see in Rebels. But really, I mean, for me, the last 4 episodes of Clone Wars are just
it elevated it to a whole new level, didn't it?
It's just beautiful. It's just like, I honestly, that's what's missing from the sequel trilogy is like, I'm crying, man. I am bawling at that end of, and I had no emotional response after Rise of Skywalker. Like, oh, okay, there you go.
It's over.
Yeah. So, Clone Wars.
Clone Wars. Okay. If you could change one thing about Star Wars, let's keep it in universe.
Okay.
One thing about Star Wars, what would you change?
That's a good question. Boba Fett lives.
There we go. Well, you may get that.
Yeah, I might get that. It's still a possibility, But yeah, Boba Fett. I think because like George didn't know what to do with him, and he's like, just throw him in there, and start like.
Well, he could have been Luke's mommy. Mark wanted him to be his mom, so that that's true, don't you?
I know that's true.
Okay,
yes.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. You're stranded on a desert island. You can take 3 Star Wars items with you. What do you have with you?
Oh, okay. The Heir to Empire book. I'm on an island.
Yeah, stranded.
Well, yeah, it's stranded. Yeah. I mean, I would take my TK, but it's very hot, and so at a shore trooper outfit or something, maybe I'd take that. Yeah, that's really a good question. Probably like an action figure, like a Boba Fett action figure. Got to take Boba Fett action figure, a book, and any Audible book that's narrated by Mark Thompson. Nice. I will take. Yeah, so
he's the best.
Maybe a Thrawn book. Yeah, Thrawn.
Oh,
yeah.
So good, and a great guy on top of it all.
Oh yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah,
he's amazing.
For you, how does Star Wars inspire hope?
Oh, I mean, we kind of talked about this before the show. a lot of things going on currently in the world, and I think a lot of people need a lot of love, a lot of faith, a lot of hope, and I think Star Wars definitely delivers on all those levels. And I think you have to, to use Rose's kind of cheesy line, you have to fight for things you love, right? And you do that by gathering people that are like-minded and driving towards a goal. And don't let anybody tell you the odds, and you might have a bad feeling about this, but at the end, that if you band together and have a purpose, that will, that gives you hope and that gives you drive, and even when things look bad, you have to drive forward, and the little bit of that with love, where Luke has this ideal about his father that no one else sees, and Luke just like, he's my dad, and I don't care what everybody else thinks. He might be the worst person on the world, but that's my dad, and I'm going to try to help him, and he does, and that's hope right there.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Central theme in all three trilogies is choices.
Correct.
So you've got obviously Luke's choice to strike down his father or save him and stay on the light side. Anakin makes bad choices in the prequel trilogy, obviously.
Right.
And then, I thought it was going to go down a completely different path in the sequels, but really it's Ben Solo's choice to come back at the end of that. Name a time in your life where you had two very clear, distinct paths that you could go down. Mm-hmm. What did you choose and why?
Personally, like marriage, had a different path and could have gone down a different path, but I chose to stick with it. And, that was a very difficult decision. Yeah. And, many times doing the right thing when no one's looking, I think is also, didn't do that all the time, but then, those times you do, it's like those pay off in the end, even though no one no one's seeing that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Awesome. Tell everybody about WSTR and all the stuff that you guys are doing and what you do with Star Wars, how they can find you, all that fun stuff.
Oh my gosh, everything? Okay. So I'm part of WSTR, Galactic Public Access, and you can find us on the socials at WSTR Media. We started out as four dudes at a church talking about Star Wars all the time, and it just kind of like, hey, we should do a podcast because we were blowing up the production booth, and then we did that for a little bit, but then Last Jedi came out, and two of them, I don't like the direction of where Disney is taking us, and so that kind of set me and Aaron on a path by ourselves, and then we looped in Heather, and now we've looped in JD and Carla, and so it's five of us, and we have a great time talking about all kinds of things in Star Wars, and we try to keep it do character analysis, try to do some topical stuff, and just have fun with it. So the pitch is it's NPR for the Galactic HoloNet. So that we try to keep it somewhat factual and not too opinionated, but also a little talking heads in there a little bit. So but yeah, it's fun. I just because one podcast isn't enough, so I just started a podcast. Why?
Exactly.
Why? A little inspiration by you, I think, a little bit, but I love what Tatooine Sons is doing. I love that, and so my son Trent and I have started a podcast, Big T and Little T, and so we've just been having fun with Disney Plus, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to. We've already, we talk Star Wars every day, but just kind of talk it via podcasting. So we just started that. That's Big T, Little T podcast. You can find that on Twitter, Instagram. Yeah. And obviously with the COVID thing, not doing a lot with the Garrison, but yeah, part of the Midwest Garrison for the 501st. And that's been probably the best thing out of Star Wars for me. Just giving back to the community, as well as I get to dress up as a stormtrooper, has been really fulfilling and just a lot of fun doing that kind of volunteer work. But only got one troop in before all this thing kind of went hell in a handbasket, So hopefully we'll get back to it soon. But it is very, check it out, 501st.com. You can find out all the greatest stuff. Well, 501stlegion.com, I should say that. If you're interested about joining, just check that out. Or Rebel Legion is sister. So there you go.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Todd. It's been awesome having you on.
Yep. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right. We are often faced with those critical moments in our life, like Todd was mentioning. And it's so easy for us to try to take the simple path. And so often it's much better for us to take the harder path. And the rewards on the other end of that generally can be seen as being so much better. So loved Todd's answers. Love that conversation with Todd. This week, we have been talking about Qui-Gon Jinn on the main show. We have been talking about all the rumors and the leaks that have been going on. I have some pretty strong opinions about the rumors. Here's what I had to say. Because we didn't know about the Baby Yoda thing. We didn't have a chance to speculate. We didn't have a chance to create our own headcanon around it. We didn't ever see the Darksaber coming at the end of The Mandalorian Season 1 and everything that comes through that. And so if all of these rumors are true, it's a mess because we create our own headcanon. This is not good for Disney and Lucasfilm, and they've got a problem internally either way, and they need to deal with it. Now, don't get me wrong. I love what they're doing at Star Wars, and I will probably absorb every leak, every rumor, every spoiler going forward. But I do feel like it would be better for Star Wars if they had a tighter leash on that. That's what I was trying to say with that. All right. Thank you so much again for watching this episode. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. If you're watching this on Friday when it came out, a fantastic weekend. Stay safe out there. We've got our new show, a new episode of the main show that's going to be coming out Monday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And we're going to talk about Rose Tico. And I think there's some really amazing lessons that can be learned from her life. Hope you guys will tune in for her life. My gosh. We only know her for like 30 seconds. But her story, especially that in The Last Jedi. And so the episode's all about growing up with Rose Tico as we see her do that in The Last Jedi. Tune into that. Share, like, comment, follow. Do all the fun stuff on that. We need your help. The more of you are commenting, the more of you are sharing these, the more of you are liking them, the more people can find some amazing, I hope, conversations. It's usually not on my end. It's these guests that are making it amazing. And maybe some fun, positive, family-friendly Star Wars conversation from Sam, Nate, and I. So have a great weekend. Stay safe. May the Force be with you.